Care for Life is an NGO that we have been doing an independent outcome study about. They are located in the northern part of Mozambique, one of the poorest parts of the world. And during the time we were doing this outcome study, Cyclone Idai hit, and it gave us an opportunity to look at the sustainability and the resiliency that Care for Life and their model provided to the community. We were doing a 5-year outcome evaluation. During this time, Cyclone Idai hit, destroying much infrastructure, such as the roads, hospitals, schools, churches, farms, and whole villages. Less than 6 weeks later, on April 25th, 2019, Cyclone Kenneth dealt a hard blow to northern Mozambique, just north of Idai's impact zone. Cyclones Idai and Kenneth were 2 of the top 5 worst storms in history to hit Mozambique. Catastrophic flooding from the storms affected close to 2.2 million people in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. They caused an unprecedented amount of damage. Care for Life has a mission to alleviate suffering, promote self-reliance, and instill hope. It's recognized as a non-governmental organization that employs a holistic approach to ending poverty in support of the UN's Sustainable Developmental Goals. It engages in community development at the village level, organizing people into leadership roles and helping provide training and support.
First of all, it seeks out the poorest communities, or villages, of approximately 200 to 300 families in size. That is about 1,200 to 1,300 individuals within the village. During both the leadership and community meetings, the focus is upon establishing partnerships with the community. Now, the way Care for Life accomplishes this is through the Family Preservation Program. It is expected that adults will attend community classes that teach 8 areas of emphasis. To maximize community participation in the first month after Care for Life enters the community, it will focus on the election and training of community leadership. The objective is to ensure the community develops its own resources and abilities needed to work independently of Care for Life. To achieve this aspect of development, Care for Life divides the community into 8 zones, consisting of approximately 25 to 30 families each, and each zone into 2 groups. The community then elects 2 group leaders for each zone. Next, the zone leadership and Care for Life will select 6 promoters in each zone who will concentrate on the following areas, encompassing the 8 areas of focus: health, education, children's well-being, income generation, agriculture, and home improvement. This group of 8 community volunteer leaders, 2 group leaders and 6 promoters, constitutes the zone support group. At the community level, the combined leadership from each zone constitutes the community support group. Given that each village has 8 zones, there's a total of 64 community leaders that are trained and mentored to work with the rest of the community. Initially, these chosen leaders are provided 4 2-hour trainings regarding how to use the Family Preservation Program, how to work with families, and how to support development within their communities. The general curriculum for the Family Preservation Program is taught through 31 individual lessons that cover 8 areas of emphasis. In addition to teaching knowledge and skills, each lesson contains specific behavioral change objectives, which are reinforced and supported by community leaders during their weekly visits with individual families. During the first visits with the field officers and the zone leadership, each family selects 8 goals within each of the 8 areas of emphasis, which they will work towards achieving over 6 months periods. In subsequent visits, the leadership team monitors the family progress.
So we had a couple of questions. Would that leadership structure that Care for Life put in place and the skills that they gave the village leadership and the skills that were gained through the implementation of the Care for Life model, would that assist the village in recovery from the devastating storm? The other question we had is, what would be some of the most important factors in the recovery efforts out of all the many facets of improvement that occurred with the Care for Life interventions prior to the cyclone? Now, the Care for Life program is comprehensive, and this is unlike many other models in Africa have it historically operated. There's elements of this, but they are comprehensive in transforming a village and helping it be sustainable. So they look at education, health and hygiene, food security and nutrition, sanitation, income generation, home improvement, psychosocial well-being, and community participation. And what we wondered is how effective that leadership was in helping the village after the cyclone devastation. So what we found they did is they checked in and assessed the needs of the community. They took care of the most vulnerable and prioritized those needs. They assisted them in helping the villagers themselves by networking and encouragement within the village system. And additionally, they focused on helping those that could not survive without community assistance, some immediate needs that they had. Now, in this developing country, had they not stepped in and provided that help immediately, there was no other entity. This wiped out such a broad part of Mozambique. They did not have the government resources to provide that kind of assistance. There were some creative interventions. First of all, putting health and hygiene in. Cholera was not a problem as it was in other villages because they knew how to disinfect their water. That's something that they learned through Care for Life. They also developed a very creative hand washing system that you see pictured here.
One of the things that we observed is that the leadership within the village was able to coordinate the pooling of resources. And in addition, the distribution of those resources to ensure that the most vulnerable also were able to receive what they needed. This was very different than what we observed in other villages, where it tended to be the people who were the strongest, which typically was the young males, would be able to grab the resources and hoard them.
Now, sanitation in this village historically was a problem with people just using the jungle as a restroom, and it was causing many difficulties, including cholera and other diseases. So one of the Care for Life interventions was to teach the families to build latrines. And some of the people in the village actually survived the storm in their brick latrine because their simpler house made out of wood blew away. They understood, the village and the village leaders understood the necessity of sanitation and the difference that it made in the community. They used latrines and rebuilt them as a priority after the cyclone. One of the interventions that we found that really helped the villagers in their resilience and recovery after the cyclone was the encouragement and support to assist them in their psychosocial well-being. No one in the village felt left alone or desperate. They knew somebody cared and was there to check in on them and help them. And they were able to support each other using the strengths that they had and the resources that they had in sharing their goods. So it gave the village a sense of being a very close-knit community that could support each other. Here are some quotes from the community. Care for Life taught us how to love, to take care of each other, and to respect each other. After the cyclone, when almost everything was destroyed, the Care for Life leaders in the village started visiting people and reminding them to use their skills and knowledge. When new people come to our village, we teach them these things. It has to stay clean. You must make a latrine and a tarimba. Here's a couple of other quotes from the villagers. We were really bad after the cyclone. All our roofs were gone, our kitchens were gone too, but we knew how to rebuild the kitchens, the latrines, and our houses. And not only that, we knew how to work as a community to help each other. That's what we learned from Care for Life. We learned to work together. We didn't need anyone to come help us because we knew. We were taught, and then we taught others what we learned. Another quote was, after Care for Life came, we were so excited about what we had learned, and we still want to learn more things. We learned the importance of learning, and we still want to continue to learn. How do you do that now? We asked him. Somebody learns something, and then they can teach someone else. Poco a poco, little by little.
Some further quotes that we gathered included the following. We weren't a community before Care for Life came. Things were very different. People would just walk around and go to the bathroom everywhere. They didn't care. We learned to build latrines. We learned to build kitchens and keep things clean. Before, we had a church where some people came together, but we never walked to each other's houses and talked. Now we meet and talk about our zone and how we can keep improving. We know we need to support each other. That very night, after the cyclone, we went around from house to house, checking on each other, looking into each house to see if they were okay. And if they weren't, we'd bring them to a house where they'd be okay. Another quote is, we have a better vision of the future. It was hard when we lost everything, but Care for Life has brought us hope and helped us to see that we can improve our situation. Because we have done the work once, we know we could do it again. And then finally, in talking to a villager, we noted that he was railing against the government for doing nothing to help them after the cyclone. And he expounded the following. During the cyclone, we suffered very much. Afterwards, many people said, we need someone to come take care of us, to help us. The Care for Life leader said, no one is coming, but we have the knowledge of what we need to do to take care of ourselves.
So the villagers started encouraging each other again with this poco a poco, meaning little by little, we'll clean up, we'll start again. And thanks to Care for Life, we have hope that we can do it little by little. And now, of course, is another time. Here are some of the village leaders making masks to prepare for the COVID-19 pandemic.
The community leadership structure again made it possible to teach and train the community to prepare for the potential virus. The village had limited ability to meet as a community, but with the assistance of the community leadership and the organization of the community, the education information about the virus was quickly shared with over 5,000 people.
In conclusion, the Care for Life approach is having a profound impact on the health and well-being of its target villages. The Care for Life approach is holistic, sustainable, and develops community leadership and independence, and it has dramatic impact on health outcomes. The Care for Life model worked very well during the crisis to help in the resiliency and the recovery efforts.